Hi gang, John O'Brien here, Jamestown Community College History 1510, week 7 of the Clampdown. Hope you guys are doing alright. Not much to say, right? We're kind of stuck in our homes. Governor Cuomo just put out an announcement. May 15th might be the soonest we begin to ease the clampdown a bit, but we'll do it in a controlled way based on facts, based on data, based on hospitalization rates. So, look folks, you're going to be outside. It's getting nicer out. At least today was nice. Please maintain social distance. Please put something over your face. Please do all the health protocols that the CDC recommends so we can get out of this thing, all right? We don't want to be back into this mode all summer long, God forbid, okay? So stay safe and keep up on your history. We're entering now our final chapter for the spring of 2020, chapter 19, Europe during the Middle Ages. Middle Ages, it was a term Europeans gave this period really from the fall of Rome, which to Europeans was a catastrophe, right around the year 500, to the rise of the Renaissance, okay? Sometime in like the 14th century. If we round up a bit, we could get 1,000 years out of the Middle Ages or the medieval period. By the way, it's not medieval like Halloween type of evil, it just means middle, the Moyen Age, right? The Middle Age. So what Europeans of the modern era kind of saw as an era of high class. Greece and Rome, and their own era, beginning with the Renaissance, is an era of the highest class. In between was this bridge called the Middle Ages. Sometimes erroneously called the Dark Ages, right? Where we've already seen during the Middle Ages, there were really great achievements in Europe, okay? As Europe inherited much from the Greco-Roman past, it was kind of fertilized by Germanic traditions and synthesized by the Christian tradition, Western Christian tradition. So European Middle Age is actually one of my favorite periods of history. We're going to look at, tonight, the Middle Ages, which sounds really weird, so we call it the High Middle Ages. So if you think of the Middle Ages, and in fact, I kind of use a metaphor for all of history as like a roller coaster, ups and downs, right? We have this kind of high point in the Pax Romana, right, until the year 180. And then the crisis of the 3rd century, things start to kind of go down, at least for European culture, the European economy, European politics, go down. And then Charlemagne, right, we see the downfall of Rome, the Germanic kingdoms are weak, and then Charlemagne starts to put things back together again, going up the roller coaster just a little bit. And then his son is Louis the Pious, right, not very strong, and the grandsons are even weaker. We got Charles the Bald, right? So things get worse, right? There's invasions of Muslims and Magyars and Vikings and the rise of feudalism. So we're going kind of in that downward trough of the roller coaster. And then gradually kings start to put together kingdoms. There's trade opening up with the East once more. There's the Silk Roads have been revitalized with thanks to Genghis Khan after the conquest, right? Things seem to start getting better, okay? And then we get the Black Death, okay? By that point, we're in the late Middle Ages, the latter part of the Middle Ages. We're going to talk about this high point now, where things seem to be getting better. Kings put together kingdoms. Feudalism imposes at least some order on society. The church becomes a really strong institution. Architecture of the age, these tremendous Gothic cathedrals of the 12th century, kind of the great technology of the age went into the building of churches, right? Something would be very, very difficult to equal today, even with the kind of building machinery we have today. I'm not sure we have the patience to spend hundreds of years building a new Notre Dame, which is why we're trying to fix the old one that burned a little over a year ago. So let's get into the Middle Ages, or kind of the upswing, High Middle Ages. Okay, high on the roller coaster. Don't want to make any comparison here to the Middle Ages, or certainly the Dark Ages, but I'm sure you're keeping up on current events. Just do so wisely. I don't care about new software. Get lost. Okay? Find some plural relevant, legitimate sources. Okay, so here we go with the president again shifting. This was supposed to be a miracle. It was going to be all over. Now we're looking at 100,000 people dying of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. Chautauqua County, you guys are doing well. So continue to look. We're less populous, right? It's not that other counties did poorly. We're less densely settled, and right now that's a good thing. Okay, I know people from New York City coming to Chautauqua County now to kind of hunker down. and good for them, right? I would do the same thing. But let's all try to keep social distance, as I said at the outset. All right. The High Middle Ages. Okay, let's see if I can get this going here. It's harder to do this with just my dog with me tonight here in the studio of WONY. All right. So, Europe during the High Middle Ages. Well, when does that mean? Roughly from the year 1000 to the year about the year 1300. Okay? Political recovery. After the decline of the Carolingians. Who the heck were they? Charles the Great's family, right? Louis the Pious, Charles the Bald, Lothar, Louis the German. Going down, right? Rise of feudalism. Gradually, the jigsaw puzzle pieces of Europe start to get put together again. It turns out that your landlord has a landlord who has a landlord, and the guy on top is the king, okay? And gradually those kings start to put together the puzzles of their kingdoms. However, not all of Europe. Okay? Not what Charlemagne claimed to be regional kingdoms, okay? And, well, I should say kingdoms and also regional states. Essentially what that means is in Germany, we don't get it Germany. In fact, we don't get it Italy until next semester. If you come back, please do. Our History 1520. I'm teaching it, hopefully live and in the flesh, face-to-face. Anyway, we don't get it Germany, 1870s, and Italy likewise. But we do get kind of regional kingdoms in Central Europe, okay, and also Northern Italy. Economically and socially, there's enough food being grown. In fact, food production is so efficient that not everyone needs to farm. There can be people who can trade the food, who can do other lines of work, like become university professors. That's actually true, right? There's a return of town life. Yeah, towns will break free from their feudal landlords and kind of buy their own freedom. And in fact, if you were a serf stuck on the land, and, under the control of the landlord, if you could have run away and be successful for a year and a day in a city or town, you'd be free, right? So gradually some serfs begin to run away. Those who get caught and brought back to the estate are actually treated very brutally, so maybe not the best idea. We do see a return of town life based on the market, based upon often the center of a parish. That's the church substructure, kind of like a county. Culturally, higher learning, yes, in these towns and cities mostly, we will see the rise of universities, where students actually start the schools. You get a bunch of students together. Sorry, women, it's men only, of course. Sorry, poor men, it's rich guys only. Go figure. But you get a bunch of wealthy, I guess they didn't have to be too young, but wealthy men who had some family money get together and say, hey, we all want to be lawyers, what do? Well, they hire a professor of law and start a law school. Okay? So the students actually form unions. The student union wasn't a place. It was actually a bunch of students who got together and hired teachers. And when the teachers didn't do well, or they flubbed up, or whatever, came in late, they'd fire the teachers. Oh, I don't mean to tell. Don't want you to know that, folks. No, that's how it worked, right? Look, not everyone could go to university. We just said women couldn't, poor men couldn't. Among especially the poor classes, there's a great outpouring of popular piety, or piety sometimes pronounced, but a religious outpouring, especially devotion to saints. Most especially in Western Europe, Mary of Nazareth, a mother of Jesus. What else is going on? Europeans begin to move beyond their confines, beyond the borders of Europe. They push northward into the Baltic, which I guess is part of Europe, but they also push into Southwest Asia, which much, much later we'll call the Middle East. Okay? Sadly, that's the Crusades. Okay? So they thought they could wage war in the name of the Prince of Peace. We didn't say they were smart, they just get stronger. Okay? They're kind of strong enough to be stupid. But nonetheless, the Crusades will help to reintegrate, tie Europe and Asia back together. So, we get some kingdoms here. Portugal, slowly getting a Spain. No Spain yet until 1492. France, at least on this map, looks like it's slowly getting put together. Yes, the Capetians, the family of Capet, Hugh Capet, putting together the puzzle of France. On this map, the Holy Roman Empire looks really impressive, but as a guy named Voltaire, a philosopher, would later quip, it was none of the above. It wasn't holy, it wasn't Roman, and it wasn't an empire any either, but sections of it were ruled by princes, by local strongmen, landlords even. Okay? We have in England, yes. Okay. So we're starting to get wider authority in Europe, which means, look, in my kingdom, if I'm one of the Capetians and this is my France, you guys aren't allowed to fight one another. Violence is my prerogative, right? You can't have your own army and go to war against someone else's army in my country. It doesn't make sense. I control the violence in my country. Right? So what that means is, hopefully I'm not too violent, there is widespread stability. If not always peace, at least stability. I want people to trade throughout my kingdom. I don't want them to fight throughout my kingdom. Hell, that's not good for tax revenue, okay? So controls imposed much more widely. By whom? Let's not worry too much about the names. Otto the First, O-T-T-O, in the 10th century. Yeah, begins to expand the Holy Roman Empire. Gets into a fight with the Pope. Look, the Pope was really strong, right? Especially after the decline of the Carolingians. You know, society's broken down. People pledge allegiance to their landlord. They don't know who the hell the king is. So the Pope is stronger than the kings, but gradually here come the kings, right? There's going to be competition for power. We see that especially in Central Europe with Otto arguing with the Pope over who has the right to invest. It's nothing to do with money, but give power to church officials. So if I'm Otto, I need that church to help me to put together a Germany, which again doesn't happen for a long time. So I'm going to put my brother in charge of, he's going to be an archbishop over here, my cousin an archbishop over there, and someone who's afraid of me, archbishop over there. So I can use the church to try to put together this really complicated puzzle of Central Europe. Okay, how does that work out in the end? Well, when the Pope and the Emperor are beating each other up, you guys, okay, the great lords, the princes, just hold on to your power, right? If somehow you didn't like your boss, and your boss was in fighting with another boss, I guess. Your two bosses are fighting with one another. Awesome for you as the worker, right? Because no one's really watching what you do. This is kind of what happened in Central Europe. In France, yes, Capet, looks like Capet. Il s'appelle Hugh Capet, right? Capetians gradually centralized. It kind of worked like this. The great landlord said, hey, Hugh Capet is a decent guy. We'll elect him to be king, and we'll give him the center, the Ile-de-France, the center of France. And his son will marry someone over here, and his daughter will marry someone over there. And you, great landlord, when you die, will your property to Hugh Capet. Gradually, again, the puzzle starts to, France begins to get put together. The French kings, however, did not control northwestern France. That's the land of the Northmen, or the Normands, or we'll call Normandy, okay, Normandy. These are essentially the grandchildren of the Vikings, who settled on kind of the northwestern coast of France. So if I'm in Paris right now, actually I lived in Paris for a while, so I can just kind of envision this. Normandy's up here, and it's ruled by, again, French-speaking grandsons of Vikings. What do? Invade England. This is like, D-Day in reverse, right? The invasion comes from France into England, and it's successful. 1066, Battle of Hastings. It's on every trivia game, Jeopardy game, trivia game we've ever heard of, right? The Normans conquer England, and Guillaume le Bâtard, right? Guillaume, his name was William the Bastard, until he wins, and he becomes William the Conqueror, okay? Controls England. So for over a century, the ruling class of England will be French-speaking grandsons of Vikings, so to speak, which is why a lot of French words. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. A lot of French words end up in English. Okay, a lot of French words end up in English. So it'll come to me in a moment. But of course, we pronounce them differently. The only one I can think of is entrepreneur, right? What an entrepreneur is going to start a business. That's a French word. Okay, entrepreneur. Italy, as I said, divided. That puzzle doesn't get put together for a long time, especially because the Pope controls the middle of it. When do we get the Bourbons in the south? I can't remember. But anyway, different pieces are owned by different royal families. Iberia, that's collectively the peninsula of Portugal and Spain. Today, much of it, depending on when, in the 1300s, still ruled by the Moors, okay? Muslim rulers, southern Spain especially. Gradually the Reconquista, reconquest, over the course of centuries, northern kings, and queens sometimes, married with one another, allied with one another, are pushing out the Muslims, and by the way, the Jewish people too. And once Protestants show up after 1550 something, they get tossed before the Inquisition to try to prove they're Catholic. So this is not, the Christians of Spain and Portugal are not, at least the rulers, are not tolerant. The Moors had been. Okay? The Muslim rulers, whatever, okay, you're Christian, you're Jewish, doesn't matter, you're the people of the book, the dini, let's just all kind of get along. And what's going on in the High Middle Ages, a lot of Greek philosophy is ending up in Spain. Muslim scholars love this stuff, like Aristotle. They love this stuff, right? So it's going from Greek into Arabic, and then into Latin, and then introduced in the other parts of Europe, where like Aristotle is all the rage. And you're like, Aristotle? Did we talk about him when we were still back face to face? Yes, early this semester, right? He's a 4th century BCE Greek dude, okay? Where are we now? The 1300s, the 1200s, okay? He's been dead for 1500 years. And he becomes the new rage, right? In fact, study of Aristotle's ideas will lead to a whole new philosophy within the Christian church, within the Christian universities, which, by the way, we mean Catholic in the sense of Western Europe. Scholasticism. We'll get to that in a moment. What's going on economically? Economically and socially, yeah, there's more stability. You can trade across France. You're not going to get robbed on the roads, the highway robbery, hopefully. There's stability. If there's hunger in that part of France, we send food there, okay? This stability imposed by monarchs improve the economy. Population starts to go up. More land is farmed. Unfortunately, in a sense, forests are cleared for more farmland. There's new technology, like the horse collar. Somebody invents a collar that goes on the horse's shoulders so it can pull the plow instead of a collar that goes across the neck and chokes the horse so he's out of breath by the time he plows, half an acre. Look, this is kind of low tech, but it's really pretty damn important when you're going hungry, right? You can plow a lot more, furrow a lot more land. Heavy plow, there you go. Plow made out of iron instead out of wood. Right? Better diet. Population is going to go up by, I'm just looking at my numbers, it's going to more than double in 300 years. Yeah, 300 years. Right? So much so, and actually good climate was a major reason for this, right? Just by luck, there's good climate. There's a lack of disease for a while. By 1300, Europe is in some ways overpopulated for the amount of food it could produce. So food's going up because of good climate, population's going up. What's going to happen when the climate goes bad? Right? Food prices will shoot up, people will go hungry. So there's a look at population growth. From the time of Charlemagne, I would expect you to dip a little bit there, but anyway, it's going up, right? Just about doubles in 300 years. Well, this map shows a little different, but population is going up. Where are these extra people going? They're going to towns, and towns become cities in some cases, all right? So we see a revival of towns and trade. Again, food surplus could lead to urbanization, because in the city you have the people buying and selling the food, the merchants moving the food across the country, different neighborhoods of the town. You'd have the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers. Each one kind of kept an eye on one another and fixed their prices, okay? But also, these guilds, as they were called, these kind of unions of bakers, so to speak, they kept consistency as well, right? You couldn't sell your bread for less than anyone else, but you also couldn't make really crappy bread, okay? You'd get kicked out of the union, kicked out of town, whatever. You wouldn't be allowed to bake it, okay? So there's quality controls as well as some price controls. Specialization of labor, yeah, there we go. You're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, you're not just the serfs on the farm anymore. These great European towns